Welcome back to the Vanlove channel. If you've ever wondered about the Caravan Motorhome Club that many of us are members of, then this is a video you're going to want to watch.
You know, I enjoy driving and enjoy van life. Our energy bill was about £14 million a year on it.
Crocs, yes or no? So here we are in Weston Park for an amazing event which is called Clubfest, and it's organised by the Caravan Motorhome Club, and we've been very, very lucky to be invited to come and interview the big boss, the Director General of the Caravan Motorhome Club. I will allow him to introduce himself because he's going to be doing a lot of the talking today. Who are you, sir?
I'm Nick Lomas and I'm Director General of the club, a position I've held now for 14 years actually.
So for the uninitiated, and there will be people out there watching this who don't know,
Sure.
What is the CAMC?
The CAMC is the Caravan Motorhome Club, which is Britain's biggest members club for people who are interested in van life as a pastime.
That word van life, we will come back to that because that's
Okay.
a fascinating conversation in itself. Talking about numbers then, biggest membership group
Yeah.
in the UK.
Yeah.
How big is it?
So it's 380,000 families all across the UK, which together is about 1 million people who are in
Wow.
membership of the club. Yeah.
Let's go back to the beginning. I've done a little bit of research on this. I believe the CAMC, not called that at the time, was founded in 1907.
That's right, it was, yeah.
What did caravanning and motorhoming look like in 1907?
Very different to today. Obviously, I wasn't there myself, but we do have an archive in Bewley at the National Motor Museum. They look after our archive of materials and photographs and all sorts of ephemera. And yeah, it was basically a pastime for well-to-do Edwardian ladies and gentlemen to get into the great outdoors and to take their mainly caravan at that time, which was horse-drawn, around the countryside and pitch it behind inns and pubs and on village greens with landowners' permission to get into the great outdoors. It was seen as a very romantic thing to do at that time, to connect with nature, and was good for your health and so on, things that we still know to be true today actually.
When it was horse-drawn and it moved to potentially vehicles pulling caravans, was there resistance? Was it like, you're not in our club, or were they people?
Absolutely. There have always been factions in history in the club. So yes, there was a long debate, which really went into the 1930s, pre-war, about should motorised vehicles be on the same basis as the die-hard original founders. But we all have to move with the times, don't we?
Absolutely.
Unfortunately, the right decisions were made, and those people who were interested in van life as a pastime with a motorised vehicle were welcomed in, and yeah, it's grown because of that.
Because you've mentioned this twice now, I'm going to pick up on it. The term van life.
Yeah.
Okay, it's been much lauded around, especially since lockdown. How, Nick, do you interpret van life?
Well, it's interesting. I mean, I use it because it is a direct quote from our founding, our founding purpose from 1907.
They were talking about
van
van
life
life
was founded
in
for
1907.
those people who were interested in van life as a pastime. It's a direct quote.
Wow.
So, it means
with the van bit being obviously the shortening of caravan.
Caravan.
Right.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, yeah. So obviously now it's more used perhaps for camper vans and converted vans and so on as well, which is great. It's fine. But I think the core essence of it remains exactly the same. That being in the outdoors, spending time in the company of other people, being with friends and being with family, and in fresh air, and exploring new places are all things that bind us all, I think, together. If you're part of this pastime.
I mean, certainly for us, van life came about through lockdown, and we'll talk about lockdown in a sec, but that opened our eyes to what was possible in terms of getting away in a vehicle. We actually needed it for work.
Yeah.
We very quickly learned that van life for the hardcore was people living in vans. But this term, is what you're saying, is it goes back over a century in time, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Okay. So you heard it here first. Hashtag van life started in 1907 with the CAMC. There's your exclusive for today. What's the current split, do you think, now between motorhomes and caravans?
Well, it's interesting because we've been watching that over many years, and we were originally founded, as you know, as the Caravan Club and changed our name to the Caravan and Motorhome Club to be more inclusive and to be explicit that motorhomers and campervanners are just as welcome as they have actually been for decades. But it was a sort of a milestone year this last year because the numbers in membership tipped for the first time, and we have slightly more campervan and motorhome members than we do towed caravan members.
So going back to lockdown,
Yeah.
how did that affect this business? What's changed from then to now? How has it changed pre-lockdown? How have you felt the changes as a company?
Well, there was a sort of fairly steady growth in the club membership in the sort of 10 years or so coming up to the horrible pandemic thing, whatever you want to call it. But then when everybody was kind of, you must stay at home or whatever Mr. Johnson said, we prepared ourselves to reopen all our campsite network, and we worked to try and get the government to allow camping and caravanning to be one of the first things that could reopen because of being in the fresh air and outdoors. We thought the chances of transmitting the virus were less, and when we did open, quite early in the sort of reopening of the country, we just had a great groundswell of people who were desperate to get outdoors and enjoy, freedom again, I suppose. We saw a big boom in membership. I know that caravan dealers and manufacturers and converters saw a big boom in van production and people wanting their vehicles, and obviously the prices of them went up quite a lot because of that, because at the same time there was quite a lot of constrained supply. There was a boom, and that boom has, perhaps understandably, stepped back quite a bit now to a more normal state. But we're still recruiting. In fact, last year was our second best ever year for recruitment. So we're still seeing recruitment and more people that considered it, people that tried it, the people that borrowed their friends' vehicles have stayed with the pastime.
Yeah. So are you still in growth as a membership then, or is that?
Yeah, we're as I say, our second best year of membership growth was last year. And now we're pretty stable actually. We're stable.
Okay.
Yeah.
New people you've recruited into the CAMC, have you found that's a different demographic to the more traditional members of the CAMC, or is it more of the same, or how's it changed?
It's fairly similar, to be honest. We have the club really has a sort of mix of about 1/3 of the members are families, and then 2/3 of the members are people who are kind of the young retired. So the most likely age that you will join the club is in your sort of mid-50s. And then you go on. The interesting thing that happens these days is people are living longer, they have more active lifestyles. I'm pretty sure this pastime keeps you generally more healthy than the population as a whole, and we see
it's a great sales line, that.
Yeah. people do we have some members who touring well into their 80s and in even 90s, and so it's a very broad base really. But we've certainly seen vehicle changes and younger couples coming in as well, definitely. But they're all part of a mix of a broad church that is our club.
My perception, I guess, as someone hanging on to their 40s just was, goodness, I can't possibly be part of the Caravan and Motorhome Club because I'm not actually old enough to be this. I feel like I might not be alone in that thought process. I mean, do you think that's a fair judgment? I would just say before you answer that, having been in it, I think it's the most brilliant network, and I wish it signed up even earlier than I did, because the availability of sites and options around it and the affordability is fantastic. But the perception in my head was, goodness, I'm part of the Caravan and Motorhome Club, next step retirement.
Well, that's great that you're, thank you for what you say about, we really do try hard to be open and welcoming to everyone, and we do try hard to make sure that we are, the number one for giving you that consistent quality, that total reliability, that when you visit one of our sites, you will have a great experience. And we try really hard at that. And I hear what you say. The reality is, if the average age of our members is 58, then yeah, that's the way it is. But we do have, as I say, a third of our members are families who tour with their kids, or couples that want to get away and experience the great outdoors their way, and we're all about doing that. And I guess it's more hard work for us to do over time, and we'll have to keep working harder and harder to make sure that message that we are inclusive and we're fun for everybody is gets out there.
Putting all the stuff on the website to one side, like the shop and everything else, your two core offerings are the club campsites and what are called certificated locations.
Yeah.
Is that fair to say?
That's right, yeah. People join the club for great places to stay. Absolutely.
Right.
We know that's the number one reason that they choose us, yeah. So, so we've got 200 UK campsites, chosen to be in locations to give good coverage across the whole UK, so you can mostly stay within our network pretty much anywhere.
Right.
And then we are very privileged under the 1960 Caravan Sites Act to have an exemption which allows us to give a certificate to a farmer, a landowner, a pubber, anybody who's got a decent acre or half acre of land, to put 5 caravans, motorhomes, camper vans on that land if you are a member of the club, and they can welcome only members of the club onto that land. And yeah, we have 2,200 of those all across the UK.
That for us has been the biggest revelation, because we use CLs more than we do club sites, and I think when you spend the night in a sheep field, quite literally, it's a really different experience, but a brilliant one, and at the cost of £8. It's about as close to wild camping as you can get, but actually in a really safe environment, because you're allowed to park there, and you've probably got the landowner watching over you to some extent to make sure you're safe, right?
Exactly that. And you've probably got a gate that's shut at night, and you're slightly away from the road, and so most importantly, it's legal. It's legal to do it, and it's generally much safer. And if you do have a neighbour, there'll only be maximum 4 other neighbours, and they'll all be members of a club that will be respectful and nice people to be your neighbours if you have to have a neighbour.
Absolutely. I mean, full disclosure here, for those of you that follow the channel, you'll know that Joe and I have got our very own certificated location, and that's how we first met Nick and the team, because we were very fortunate to win CL of the Year. We're very proud of that. It's a beautiful spot just up the road from here. Nick, do you think the likes of the growth of Brit Stops, which is free parking in a pub car park, is that competition to you, do you think?
Well, I don't know. I think that we're all complementing one another, aren't we? Look, I always take the view that the more people that are interested in our pastime and talking about our pastime, that can only be good for the pastime. And if it makes the cake bigger, that's good for everybody.
So the difference between a CL and the traditional club sites, that's more around services and what's on offer, right?
Yeah, so a club site obviously is, it's a purpose-built site. It will generally have toilet and shower facilities. It will have a range of hard standings, electric hookups, and obviously it will be staffed by a wonderful club team. So, our own employed people who are, brilliantly trained, and they will look after you. So if you want, a more conventional, I guess, campsite experience, then we obviously have the biggest network of those in the UK.
And each have got what kind of capacity?
Typically somewhere between 80 and 120 pitches, so not terribly big, not to the point of becoming impersonal, and not to the point where they become really overcrowded even in the summer. But a sort of nice, pleasant size, really.
But 20,000 pitches, which that relates to across the country, is a lot of space. And then you add in another 10,000 through the CL network. That's a
I mean, I don't know the exact number, but it's something like 4 million, maybe 5 million potential outfit nights that we have with the CL network as well.
Yeah, it's amazing. So you've been in the job as Big Boss for 15 years.
Really? Not quite.
Not quite. What's happening in the next 15 years?
Oh, what's happening in the future? I think variety of kit and outfits will change a lot. We're seeing people wanting smaller kind of towed, pods and micro caravans. I think the whole self-conversion, self-build, small conversion market for vans is growing rapidly. People want more personalisation and something that best suits them, so I think there's a lot of that going on. I think the main manufacturers are waking up to the idea they need to look at different generations and the things they want. And the other thing is technology. I think for many years there's been a drive to be more on grid. I need to be near where there's Wi-Fi. I need to be where there's a phone box, or now a phone signal or a Wi-Fi signal. I need to be able to hook up and plug in. I think going forwards people are going to be much more self-contained, because you've got solar panels and you've got great lithium batteries and low voltage tech for everything. So I'm pretty sure all of those things mean that there'll be kind of more self-contained vehicles going forward.
Right. Okay. And we mentioned this very briefly earlier when we were talking outside. I don't know if you can share this information, but it was a frightening number you came up with. Currently, the club's annual electricity bill is. Can you share that?
Well, at the peak of the energy crisis, our energy bill was about £14 million a year on an annualised basis.
It's a phenomenal amount of money.
Yeah, which is a very big slice, obviously, of all the pitch fee income that we had. Yeah.
Absolutely, because at the moment most of the pitch fees are inclusive of electricity, right? So, do you think that's sustainable long term for the club to do that?
Clearly, at that kind of level, it's not, because members very clearly were telling us that they wanted prices to be kept under control, and we completely understood that. So we've been doing some work on some trials to meter energy usage, and we have one site in West London called Wyatt's Covert where we've actually been metering electricity, and we have seen a reduction when people's electricity is metered, and they've been able to save because we've passed that money back and reduced the base pitch fee that they then had the electricity on accordingly. And I think in the future that's something that will grow more. What we want to do though is not roll that out on a national level until we've got a really slick and easy way to do it, because we just want people to be able to take their contactless card and switch their electricity on, basically. Don't want people to have to download apps or pre-register in advance. We'd really like it to be as convenient as we can make it. So we're working with a technology company at the moment to help us do that.
We're here at Clubfest.
Yeah. And the sun
has just come out because we're talking about it. And the sun really does shine on this event because it's huge, isn't it?
Well, yeah, it's certainly the biggest event of these we've had now. The club has a great social side to it. It has local groups all over the country who put on, small events where you can camp in all sorts of locations, really economically run by volunteers. But we like to have a national event every year, and that's something that's kind of in the history of the club. But we reimagined that post-lockdown, and with the new membership that's coming on, to create our own Clubfest. Yeah, so it's a 3-day festival in a beautiful stately home location. We're hoping that we're going to have over 3,000 vans here, which is our biggest turnout in 15 years.
You are literally, as the owners of #Vanlife, which we've already confirmed, you are the biggest Vanlife event in the UK.
Very possibly, yeah.
We've talked lots about CAMC. We'll quickly touch on you, Nick.
Okay.
Some questions for you. Again, through my research, you're involved in more than just CAMC.
My paid job is with CAMC, but I'm also a board director on the Tourism Alliance, which is the British, the body that represents UK tourism at Westminster, tries to create a unified voice for tourism in its widest sense. We're obviously very clearly a big part of tourism, but everybody automatically thinks, oh, tourism, that's hotels and planes, and it isn't. It's obviously a much, much bigger thing than that, because we need to stand and present a story to government about why they should think about the tourism industry and support the tourism industry, and not tax tourists quite too much. So I do that role, and then I have some volunteer roles as well where I'm particularly interested in road safety. Vehicles are part of my life. I enjoy driving and enjoy van life, and so doing something to put something back into the kind of the well-being of the motor industry is something that's important to me as well, and keeping people safe on the roads with safer driving, safer roads is important to me. Yeah.
What is it that gets you out of bed then in the morning? What gets you really excited about this job?
Giving millions of people safe, happy holidays. And we do that as an organisation year in, year out, and that's what makes me climb the stairs of the office every morning. Yeah,
amazing.
Absolutely.
So, and what's the one thing you'd love to be able to change if you had ultimate power, magic wand?
I don't have megalomaniac tendencies really. No, I'd really love. It's to your point almost about perceptions of things, and I think it's really disappointing. You know, I completely understand. You know, van life is not for everybody in whatever form you want to do it. But I just wish the British media would be just a little bit more open-minded.
I would agree with that. I think they're terrible at the moment.
Yeah.
It's just negative stories, and it's clearly people that have never done it. Otherwise, they wouldn't write it.
Well, yeah, absolutely. I think that's probably true in many cases.
It's my humble opinion.
Yeah, I think it's true in many cases. But yeah, you know, we send lots of writers, journalists, you know, and broadcasters on weekends, and they are genuinely surprised by the comfort of the vehicles. They're genuinely surprised by the quality of the facilities on campsites or at CLs, and the lovely warm welcome they get from this brilliant community that is actually, you know, quite heartwarming kind of community, isn't it? Really,
it's amazing.
The camaraderie of it.
Yeah.
So yeah, if we could just make sure we got, you know, a much more balanced view of the pastime, I'd love that.
For us personally, discovering this has been phenomenal. It's led us into a whole world that running our own festival and running a campsite and meeting just the most amazing people like yourself and being part of the CAMC. I think as I say, you can focus on the negative, but there is so much positivity around this scene. There's such a great experience, and so much of the UK and the rest of Europe you can see that you just wouldn't see if you were going on a plane.
No, absolutely.
Even if you're renting a car, you don't experience it because you're always on someone else's time.
That's
but
right.
with these vehicles, you're on your time.
Yeah, and you know, just going to, you know, on the CL network to a little pocket of the countryside that you would never ever get to or think that you could stay on if it weren't for that network. Yeah, it's remarkable. Yeah.
Favourite campsite you've ever stayed at?
Oh, that's
and
really
it can
hard.
be outside the network.
It's really
It's
hard
okay.
because
We won't judge.
I can't talk about the network because it's like a father having favourite children.
Yeah,
It's
absolutely.
just
No, I
not
understand.
possible.
Okay, so favourite campsite outside of the network.
My most amazing camping experience was probably last year when I had the opportunity to go to Morocco and go to the Sahara Desert, which
Wow.
is kind of one of those places, you know, because it's the true caravanserai, you know, the trains of people, nomads crossing the desert, where the origin of the name. And we did camp in the desert, and I stayed in the caravan for one night because I was actually in a caravan that night. And then the following night, I just, you know, it was warm in the evenings, and obviously, so I just slept under the stars. And it was,
Amazing.
you know, this black velvet view of, you know, millions and millions of stars with no light pollution, just absolutely amazing. So yeah, that was probably my most amazing campsite
Okay.
moment.
Quick fire round. Caravan or motorhome? That's going to alienate 50% of your members straight
I think it really. I think it's horses for courses. I've done both. I've owned both. I think you know, if you like the, you know, having a small car or a car that you can get from place to place, sometimes that means that a caravan's quite a lot more convenient. If you like the sort of feeling of setting up your home from home, then a caravan is great for that because you set up and you pitch up and you've got your base for the weekend or the week or whatever. If you just want to tour from place to place, there's nothing to beat a motorhome, is there? So it's whatever you want to do with it. My stage of life now, my kids have, you know, left home and they've got their own lives. We loved our family caravan. As a couple, we really love our motorhome.
And you own an Adria?
I own a van conversion from one of the main manufacturers. Yeah.
Very final question. It's an important one. Crocs, yes or no?
If it means, do I own a pair? No, I don't own a pair, so I think I'm probably a no. But they are quite useful sometimes, and I do borrow my son's when he's at home, or my wife's, to go out in the garden sometimes when it's raining or something else, and I quickly need to put something on.
So just to be clear, if
I
you're
know,
expecting
really.
any shock revelations in this video, you'll have to understand Nick is one of the most politically correct and safe people I've ever met. But it's really, really great.
I don't own my own Crocs. Not a Croc fan, really. To be
No,
honest.
there you go. So it's a no to Crocs. Finally. Thank you so much for watching this, and thank you to Nick
Thank you.
for all of your time.
Thanks very much.
If you're not a member of the CAMC and want to learn more, how do they find you?
Oh, it's dead
Or
easy.
not you personally.
Well, no.
or
Well,
they
you can find me.
you can, if
There's
you
probably a little bit about me on there, but go to camc.com. That's the easiest way.
want. Okay, and the membership is currently how much?
That's a very good question. £63. Yeah,
That's
£63.
correct.
So really, not very much money at all for access to the biggest network of campsites in the UK. And we didn't talk about Europe, but obviously we have a network of sites in Europe that we can help you with.
Europe, and actually, if you are, and we are all guilty of the motorhome and caravan upgrades, you do have a really good online shop as well, don't you? With
We
the
do.
network.
If you're starting out and you want to buy stuff with a great discount, that's good. And if you love an upgrade or you're looking for a new thing, then you can save lots of money through our discounts for members and our club shop, and also days out and places to stay. We have discounts at hundreds of attractions
And ferries as well.
And yes, we have exclusive arrangements with lots of the ferry operators, and we can save you money on your crossings into Europe, and on campsites across Europe as well.
I'm absolutely not doing the sales pitch here because I'm not that kind of guy, but I can tell you from doing our research and being a member, you can save more than the fee per year. So that's £63 it's a good investment.
Yeah, very easily you can save that.
There you go. That's as sales as we're going to get today. So thanks again for watching. Thank you to Nick.
Thank you, Guy.
Keep it Vanlove, vanlove.com. We'll see you again soon in the next video.